This playthrough is rated M for mature.
Greetings and salutations, viewers. Vauldemare back here with my Hakuōki Stories of the Shinsengumi. In the last episode, our main female protagonist was able to, after 5 months of hanging out with these crazy dudes, was finally able to leave the house and check up for her father. But she made some friends in the process and realized they're not as bad as they normally are. Or have we just not seen their true nature? Let's find out. Even the people of Kyoto feared the Shinsengumi. Excuse me. I paused every so often to ask some of the less intimidating passerbyers if they might have seen my father. I'm looking for someone. He's in his 40s and speaks with an Edo accent. His head is shaved, but he looks friendly. He's a doctor, too. After several regretful apologies, I came across someone who claimed to have seen a man matching my description.
そんな雰囲気の人なら、しばらく前にそこのマス屋さんで見かけたよ。
Oh yeah, I think I might have seen that guy a while back over at Masu's. As he spoke, he pointed towards a store selling wood and charcoal. Thank you so much. Of course, I told myself it could be someone who only looks like my father. And again, perhaps it was my father. Okita caught my eye and gave me a stern look. He opened his mouth, presumably to reprimand me, when...
貴様ら浪人か。主取りなら判明を答えろ。
You there! Are you Ronin? Give us the name of your lord, if you indeed you serve one. The cry went up from one of the Shinsengumi soldiers, and Okita turned, his mouth tightened into a thin line. Well, shit! I guess they would choose the worst possible time to stir up trouble, wouldn't they? His hand dropped to his sword as he ran towards the commotion. Townsfolk screamed and ran, like leaves before a gale. Whoa! In the sudden press of fleeing citizens, I found myself pulled away from Okita. For a moment I panicked, but soon realized it was perhaps for the best. If I'd stayed close, he would have been forced to keep half of his attention on me. I didn't want to distract him, so I ran to a nearby alley to watch. Once the situation was resolved, I could make my way back to the first division.
坊ちゃん、そこの坊ちゃん。巻き込まれんよう、うちの店へ入りや。
Hey kid, come over here. You don't want to get yourself caught up in that. Huh? I paused for a moment. A strange man was inviting me into his store. Not strange on the face of it, perhaps, but I had been warned by many to be on my guard. I was about to politely refuse when I realized which store it was. The one the man earlier had pointed to. Excuse me, but is this Masu's? Yes, it is. He nodded. Great. You see, I'm looking for someone, and is that really the best time?
このガキ、さっきまで新選組のOkitaと一緒にいたぜ。
Mr. Kaimon, I just saw that kid with Okita, the Shinsengumi captain. What? What?
新選組だと。逃げろ!
The Shinsengumi, run for it! There was a mad scramble for the door, and in moments the store was empty of customers. What? True, I had been accompanying the Shinsengumi, but the reaction of the store's customers seemed excessive.
君って本当に運がないよね。ある意味こいつらも僕もだけど。
You really have the worst life, don't you? Still, I guess you could say the same thing about them. And me. He gave a small, unconcerning shrug and leapt through the door of the shop. Masu's exploded with the sound of swordplay, and with men swearing and scrambling across furniture for position. What? What on earth had just happened? When we returned to Shinsengumi headquarters, Sanin had a number of words for us. They weren't particularly pleasant. He had been kneeling for some time as the colonel berated us before Okita finally spoke up. Why would they berate her?
そんなに怒ることないじゃないですか。僕たちは長州の患者を捕まえてきたわけだし。
You don't need to lose your head over it, Sanin. After all, we arrested a couple of Choshu people. When the fight was over, we discovered a massive arms cache and confiscated the entire thing. No one had bothered to explain to me what was happening, however, and I was utterly lost.
怒ることではない。沖田君は面白いことを言いますね。
Not something to lose my head over. My head is right where it belongs, Okita. Perhaps you should inquire after yours.
マスや紀右衛門と身分を偽っている人間は長州の患者である古高俊太郎だった。
Word of the day. Kaiman Masu, a merchant who sells firewood and charcoal, actually a cover identity for Shuntaro Furuataka while operating in Kyoto. Shuntaro Furuataka, a nationalist Ronin who acted as a spy for the Choshu in Kyoto during the time when they were not permitted entrance to the city. He was responsible for gathering weapons and information. The man claiming to be Kaiman Masu was in fact Shuntaro Furuataka, a Choshu spy.
我々新選組はその事実を知った上で彼を泳がせていた。
I assume you are aware that the Shinsengumi was allowing him to operate in the hope of acquiring enemy intelligence.
その通りですけど、でも捕まえるしかない状況だったんですよ。
Yeah, I was, but we didn't have the choice this time. I had to bring him in. The excuse was weak, and his petulant frown suggested he knew it.
ま、宗司の言う通り、ある意味では大手柄だろうな。
Well, it's not like it was a total bust. Like Soji said, they did arrest some guys.
でも古高を泳がせるために頑張ってた島田君や山崎君に悪いと思わないわけ？
Yeah, but don't you feel bad for Shimada and Yamazaka? They were staking out the place to keep an eye on Furuataka. Kai Shimada, an officer in the Shinsengumi as well as a spy. During times of peace, he also served under Shinpachi in the 2nd Division. Whoops. Read the other one. Susumu Zaki, a Shinsengumi officer and spy. He is a member of the Watch and reports to Hijikata. The corners of Hisuke's mouth twitched into a momentary smile. Shimada interrupted before he could continue.
東堂君の気持ちもありがたいが、我々のことはあまり気にせんでください。
We appreciate your concern, Todo. We nobody needs to lose any sleep on our.
私らも古高に対して手詰まりでしたから、沖田君たちが動いてくれて助かりましたよ。
We were getting nowhere with Masu the last few days anyway. Okito did us a favor. Yamazaki nodded in silent agreement.
古高捕獲はすでに済まされた事柄です。その結果に不満を述べるつもりはありません。
I mean, I know they just mentioned them, but still, they're just. I'm trying to think of a voice.
Furutaka's arrest is over and done. You won't hear any complaints from us about it.
I'll probably reuse that line for someone else later on.
それに引き換え掃除は。
Man, you two are the definition of stoic and reasonable. Soji, on the other hand. It didn't look like Nagakura was going to let Okita get away without thoroughly rubbing his face in his mistake. At last I felt I could remain quiet no longer. It was my fault. Some Ronin were causing trouble, so I tried to get out of the way. And I got separated from Okita and the crowd, and I didn't go right back to him. Before I really realized what was going on, I was in front of Masu's, and someone was shouting about how I was with the Shinsengumi.
君への監督不行き届きは誰の責任ですか?
But who was tasked with looking after you? He glared at me, his eyes hard and angry. I felt my throat dry up.
一番組組長が監視対象を見失うなど、全く情けないこともあったものですね。
The captain of our 1st Division can't even keep track of a single charge? Is this the best the Shinsengumi can do? When I first met him, Sandon had been nice and a little quiet. After his injury, however, it was as if he'd become an entirely different man.
外出を許可したのは俺だ。こいつらばかり責めないでやってくれ。
I mean, basically he ended up having his metaphorical dick cut off, so, you know. I told her to wait, told her she could go. They were only following orders. Sandon looked up as Hijikata walked into the room. He gave the commander a tight wry smile, but got only a peaceful, impartial glance in return.
土方さんが来たってことは、古高の拷問も終わったんですか?
If you're here, that means you're done interrogating Furuataka, right? Hijikata did so much as blink.
風の強い日を選んで今日の都に火を放ち、あわよくば天皇を長州へ連れ出す。
They're going to wait for a day when the wind picks up, then set Kyoto on fire and kidnap the emperor while everyone else is losing their shit.
それが奴らの目的だ。
So they say, at least. His voice was calm and measured, but we all felt the import of his words.
町に火を放つだ。長州の奴ら。
頭のネジが緩んでるんじゃねえの?
Burn down the city! Those Chosu guys are crazier than I thought! He followed his comment with a rude gesture that made me blush involuntarily when he flipped on the bird. Although I didn't think the middle finger was actually an insult till like much later in history. Eh, whatever. You could make up whatever it is. It just says rude gesture, so it could be whatever.
それ単に天使様を誘拐するってことだろ?
I think it's the middle finger though.
そんなお掲げてるくせに全然敬ってねえじゃん.
So they want to kidnap the emperor. Seems like a little contradictory for a bunch of guys who call themselves imperialists. A term for the philosophical and political leanings of those who want to see the emperor as the supreme administrative power for Japan in place of the shogun.
何にしろ見過ごせるものではない。
Whatever their reasons, we can hardly ignore their plans.
奴らの会合は今夜行われる可能性が高い。てめえらも出動準備を整えておけ。
They're probably meeting tonight. We need to get ready to move out.
了解しました、副長。
Understood, Commander. Pylon secured.
腕が鳴るぜ。
Alright, finally I'm getting chills. They didn't all display the same level of professionalism, but each man there made it clear that he was prepared. As they quieted down, Hijikata turned towards me as if he had only just noticed my presence.
それから行動さんの件だが、長州の者と松屋に来たことがあるらしい。
We did get some information on Koto. Apparently he visited Masu's with some men from Chosu. What? He was with the Chosu? Choshu? But my father was loyal to the shogunate. That was why the Shinsengumi agreed to help me look for him. But the Choshu are at odds with the shogun. Why did my father be with them? But no one had an answer for me. Preparations for the raid began immediately. Within moments, the compound was a beehive of activity, with soldiers and officers running back and forth. The tension was thick enough to cut with a dull knife, and I found it affecting me, despite my best efforts. My encounter at Masu's had created new problems for them, and I had hoped I might be able to help out to make up for it, but how was I supposed to help prepare for a raid? There was nothing for me to do but sit in my room. I felt terrible and useless for doing it. Still, I told myself best you avoid getting in anyone's way. As I sat there doing my best to think of something, anything else, I heard voices nearby.
動ける大使が足りていない。近藤さんの隊は10名で動くそうだ。
We don't have enough men. Kondo has only 10 soldiers ready to fight.
俺ら土方さんの隊は24人だったが、大使の半分が腹痛って笑えないよな。
Hijikata and I have 24 apiece, right? Man, half our guys are out with stomach aches. Not exactly a laughing matter, eh, Saito? That didn't seem to keep Harada from laughing, though. If I was correct, Kondo would be taking his men to the Ikeda Inn, and Hijikata would be taken to his to the Shikoku Inn. Ikeda Inn, one of several locations where the nationalist group claiming to support the emperor would gather. Shikoku Inn, one of several locations where national imperialists gathered.
そういえば、あいつらは使わないのか。夜の任務だし、うってつけだと思うんだが。
So, you think we'll bring him along on this one? It's a night mission. It'd be perfect.
お前らが減らしたけど、まだ何人か残ってるはずだろう。
We lost a couple the other day, but there should still be a few left, right?
しばらく実戦から遠ざけるらしい。調整に手間取っていると聞いたが。
I heard they won't be seeing combat for a while. They're having difficulty adjusting.
血に触れるたび、俺たちの指示も聞かずに狂われてはたまらん。
They'll stop listening to orders as soon as they see blood. It's inconvenient. What? I swore I heard something about a reaction to blood before. No, this was something I wasn't supposed to hear. Did they not realize I was there? If they didn't, I could hardly announce my presence after what I'd heard.
奴らも浮かばれねえな。戦うために選んだ道だろうに。
They've got to be spinning in their graves. Didn't they choose to do this so they could fight?
佐野、浮かばれないという表現は死んだ者に対して使うものだろう。
Sano, you always say that after someone's actually dead.
ああ、別に死んでねえよな。むしろめったなことじゃ死なねえし。
Yeah, I guess you're right. They aren't really dead, are they? In fact, they're even harder to kill now. There was no doubt about what I was hearing. It was not meant for me. I was about to make a joke about her sticking her fingers in her ear and going la 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 la, and she actually does it. I shoved my fingers into my ears and closed my eyes tight. The best I could do was make sure I didn't hear anything more. Really? Curiosity? Just a little bit curious. Oh, what are you doing here, Yakamura? Oh, wrong voice. Oh, whatever, I didn't notice him. My eyes flew open to see Kondo standing in front of me. I couldn't just sit there. I told him the truth about how I'd felt so useless and left my room to find some way to help.
なるほどな。君の気持ちはよくわかる。打ち入り前でみんなも高揚しているしな。
Ah, of course, I see. I know how you feel. Men are pretty excited, aren't they? Yes. Excited? I would have said bloodthirsty.
どうかね。君も一緒に来るか。
Would you care to join us? What? That was not what I expected him to say. You mean go on a raid with you? I don't know what I could...
伝令役になってもらえるとありがたいんだが、もちろん君に無理はさせん。
Well, we could certainly use a messenger, but if you'd rather not, there's no need to feel obligated. Of course, the chief is only taking 10 soldiers. Well, alright, if I'll just be a messenger. His face split into a grin, and that was how I found myself on the way to the Ikeda Inn to accompany the Shinsengumi on their raid. Uh-oh, hijinks occurring. No, I'm just kidding. Hour of the Dog. After we arrived at Ikeda, I was sent off on several short errands nearby. I returned to hear Nagakura talking to Okida. Hour of the Dog, approximately 8 p.m. What was that from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Something o'clock, 3 a.m. I don't know. I'll have to play that game again.
こっちが当たりか。まさか長州藩邸のすぐ裏で会合とはな。
Well, looks like we hit the jackpot in this one. Not sure if they're brave or stupid for meeting right next to a government building.
僕は最初からこっちだと思ってたけど、奴らは今までも頻繁に池田屋を使ったし。
I knew they'd be here. After all, they always met at Ikeda before.
だからって古高が捕まった晩にわざわざ普段と同じ場所で集まるか？
Sure, but the night Furutaka got arrested, that just seems sloppy to me.
普通は場所を変えるだろう。常識的に考えて。
I mean, why not meet somewhere else? Any normal person would worry someone was onto them.
じゃあ、奴らには常識がなかったんだね。実際こうして池田屋で会合してるわけだし。
Well, obviously they're somewhat less than normal. After all, they are meeting at the Ikeda Inn, aren't they? But for the subject matter, it couldn't have been any conversation between Nagakura and Okita. Perhaps the Chosu were trying to trick the Shinsengumi. I certainly wouldn't have known. Whatever the reason for their behavior, however, it didn't seem to have Nagakura or Okita particularly worried. Kisuke noticed me as I approached and jogged over.
どうだった？会津藩とか諸次第の役にまだ来てなかった？
So, how'd it go? Did anyone see anyone from Aizu or the Judiciary Commissioner? Well, to be honest, I didn't really see much of anyone nearby. He frowned and grunted unhappily to himself.
日暮れ頃にはとっくに連絡してたってのに、まだ動いてないとか何やってんだよ。
Still, they still haven't made that move. I told them to even before it started to get dark.
落ち着けよ、平助。
Settle down, Isuke. The larger man smacked Hisuke playfully on the shoulder with a bark of laughter.
あんな奴ら役に立たねえんだから、来ても来なくても一緒だろ。
Besides, it's not like they'd do us any good if they did show up. If this is gonna happen, we gotta do it ourselves.
だけどさ、新八さん、俺らだけで突入とか無謀だと思わねえの？
Yeah, I guess. It's just, don't you think running in all on our own is a little reckless? His words must have made sense to someone because we decided to wait for reinforcements. We waited for some time, but they never appeared. Hour of the Boar. I looked up at the sky. Hour of the Boar. Approximately 10 p.m. The moon had moved a good part of its way across the sky since we arrived at the Akita Inn. Damn it, it's getting pretty late.
近藤さん、どうします？これでミスミス逃しちゃったら無様ですよ。
What do you want to do, Kando? It'd be pretty late if we just sat here all night and did nothing. The chief had been quiet for the last several hours, but when Okita spoke, he stood up and laid his hand on my shoulder.
Yukimura-kun, 少し池田屋から離れていてくれるか?
Yukimura, can you stay away from the Akita Inn?
ここは危険だ。老子が降りてくるかもしれん。もっとも逃がすつもりはないがな。
Things are gonna get dangerous. That place is full of rebel soldiers. We don't intend to allow them to escape, but better safe than sorry. Then he stood up, gave me a smile, and ran into the inn.
会津中将お預かり老子隊新選組。戦議のため宿内を改める。
And then he got stabbed in the face. No. We are the Shinsengumi, retainers of Lieutenant General of the Aizu domain. By April decree, you are all under arrest. Lieutenant General of Aizu, the position held by the Lord of the Aizu domain, Kadamori Yasudara, was appointed to it by the Shogun after earning the rank of Lieutenant General of the Left Guard. The words were scarcely out of his mouth when a cacophony of yells and screams erupted out of the inn.
わざわざ大声で討ち入りを知らせちゃうとか、すごく近藤さんらしいよね。
Giving them a good loud warning that he's about to kick the tar out of them. That's Kandu for you. Okita gave a bark of laughter as he made his way towards the end. Yeah, seems like a good form anyway. It's polite to let them know what they're up against.
自分をわざわざ不利な状況に追い込むのが新八さんの言う定石。
Ah, so your definition of good form is putting us at a disadvantage. Hisuke and Nakakura grinned at one another as they too sauntered towards the end. We act with the authority of the government. Resist and we'll show you no mercy. Then the battle began in earnest. The yells of men and the clangs of sword filled the air, rolling out through the doors and windows of the inn. I could hear feet pound upstairs, the screams of men dying, the wet thud of bodies drop into the floor. Damn it, there's too many of them. We need backup, but is there anyone still out there? Well, there was someone, but all the men who'd come with the captains had run around to go into the back and couldn't hear Nagakura. Even if they could have, I heard sounds of battle coming from the back of the inn as well. What should I do? The only person left to go help them was me. But even if I did, what could I do? That was when I heard Kondo. Soji! Soji, are you alright? Then Nagakura called out from a different part of the inn. Damn it, Hisuke! Don't die on me! Oh no. I had no desire to go into a building full of men trying their best to kill one another. Even if I did, I had no illusions about my skill with the blade. I was sure to be killed before I'd even drawn it. I could hardly sit by and do nothing. Perhaps if I could fight, I could rescue the wounded, find them and carry them out of the inn. My mind was made up. I steeled myself and ran inside. And does Hinata do what she needed to do? Will she fight off the dudes? Will she save some people? Find out next time on Hakuōki, Stories of the Shinsengumi. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next episode.